Name for the record, please?
Would you like me to stand and?
Sure, you can stand over them.
If I don't have to, that's fine.
You don't have to. Our camera guy will pick you up wherever you stand.
Okay, no problem. My name's Kevin Perry, here representing Route 44 Hyundai. Yes, we are here for a certificate of occupancy. We kind of ran this right down to the wire to be here tonight. We were getting the rest of our signage done today. I kind of guess I maybe didn't follow things well enough as I should have. I went with outstanding construction items from when we came here for the temporary occupancy, and I went down that list, and I felt as though I sufficed those items, 15 through 22. And number 14, given the plans to the Mass DOT, we had done as well, forwarded this week. At the same time, we gave the as-built to the planning board. However, after Niche Engineering came out, there's a couple other things here that I didn't anticipate, and it was too late to cancel the meeting tonight, but I'd like to at least talk to you about it. As far as the Niche Engineering recommends the applicant provide a copy of the final as-built to Mass DOT. We have done that, but then with the additional verbiage of, and get comments back to the planning board. I talked to Brian Dunn about that today, and I know when we first got the permit with Steve Green with Mass DOT, it took me about 4 months, and it was tough going back and forth communication-wise. If you do want some communication from them as to the as-builts, I'll certainly talk to Steve Green and see what I can get from him. I'm not sure what type of comments we were looking for on that. Number 2, obviously some of the vegetation and stuff like that. We have put the retention area in. They did seed it. They did it with a hydro seed. We did have a couple areas there that I did see washed out a little bit, and I know we can't really calculate the growth of the grass until obviously the spring. So I do know we have some items here. I do have a question about the cleaning of the drains, being that relatively most of the drains on that lot are new. What is the requirement on that we're supposed to be meeting for cleaning the drains? I noticed on number 3 on the outstanding construction items.
Just generally, I mean, it's when the job's completed,
Just
they clean, they flush.
in
the
case of
drains
any sediment that
yeah,
went
just
into
get
it and
the
stuff.
sediment out, so I don't know,
Okay.
provide drain
Well,
cleaning.
I'm not
stuff,
going to lie to
sediment.
you. We haven't had anybody in for that. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was something we had to do. So
On
I
your,
apologize.
This Mass DOT.
on your original
Yes.
letter
Yes.
from Judith Niche,
Yeah.
dumpster pad enclosure, wasn't that on there?
Yeah, it's done. I
Oh, it
don't-
is done, you're,
Yeah, I don't even, I think it was an oversight when he came out today. I took pictures of it to bring it, because when I noticed that, I'm like, geez, I said, we did that. We put all stockade fence around it.
It was enclosed so good he didn't notice it.
It's big, yeah, that's what I said. I said, he probably had so much other stuff he was looking at, but I wanted
Does
to bring
this
that.
occupancy make or break anything?
Not really, other than me coming down in once a month, you know, upgrading the temporary. It's not the end of the world.
I mean, we are holding a bunch of money in the.
Right, you're holding some money,
The
I mean,
Mass
right?
DOT thing, you wait for comments from them, you're not gonna get your occupancy till you're dead.
what did you have to provide to the state for?
Just an as-built for the drainage that we had done. Brian Dunn, just the drainage. just to
Because
show-
your entrances, you didn't change any entrances or
Nope.
openings going in?
We did the
so-
curb cuts as they specified. We put the drainage in at the entrances and exits and stuff because they wanted to make sure we didn't have any sheet runoff to the highway. We eliminated that, and we gave them specifications of which they asked for. And then that was supposed to bring the water back into the retention. So I feel as though we met that obligation.
I don't think it's really our jurisdiction.
Yeah,
What
I
you gotta
didn't-
meet for Mass DOT.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, I didn't think that was too much as far as that goes. As far as, you know, what's gonna grow and all, Lopes and I have been talking about that. He knows that he has to come back in the spring and patch up a couple areas and probably reseed it. It's just not the optimum time, this time of the year, to be hydro seeding, so we kinda knew that wasn't gonna take.
Well, with Mass DOT, we've always said for planning board to get involved with the state.
Well, we can only ask.
We can make, correct, we can make recommendations and we can ask.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, I don't think it would be up to us to not issue a permanent occupancy permit because of Mass DOT.
Thank you.
With dumpster pad being done, or the fencing being done,
Yeah.
with,
Have you changed
Yeah, we'll get to that after this.
Yeah.
And then the landscaping, obviously, I think if we can take the landscaping, and at the same time that we do an inspection in the springtime of landscaping, we can also do an inspection of the catch basins just for cleaning.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
I
do
would
that.
think
That's not a problem.
I would
because-
think that that would be something.
Yeah, we certainly don't have a problem with that, but that's all I was trying to avoid. I know there's gonna be some money held there. Obviously, I looked at some of the numbers that were there too. In the retention pond, I went by the drawing, I miscalculated, I didn't go to the front sheets to determine how many plants were supposed to be in there. I went by the drawing and I counted 10, that's what I had put in, but then I noticed tonight, it says 20. And then it says 23 trees, I counted 20, but I think maybe I didn't place them in the place they were supposed to be, so I may have to have some movement of trees in the spring. But currently, I have 20 trees on the property, and I have 10 in the retention for shrubs.
So
Again,
how much money are we is being held?
8,300.
8,300, I think we had put
No, how much money is in
50,000.
50,
50,000?
yeah.
Everything was released at our last meeting up to 50,000?
50,000 was taken
Taken, yeah, nothing was released.
originally.
Oh, that's right, because they wanted a temporary occupancy.
Right,
so they
right.
wanted some money.
Yeah, yeah, and the other building is still closed. We know we're not gonna get an occupancy again until, you know, we get this done, and we're okay with that as well. That's not a problem.
Temporary's only good for 30 days?
Yeah, 30 days, and then I come and renew it every 30 days. It's not a matter of the $50, it's just coming down every 30 days. That's all, you know, and I just said,
Well, if we have, Russ, do you have any objection to giving blessing on the occupancy permit, holding the $8,300 for a springtime inspection of the catch basins and trees? Make sure the growth is done, make sure the
we
trees
won't run away
are...
from this. We have every intention of doing whatever. We want to be on good
There's
standards.
no better time to address this paging system issue than when they're looking for something from us.
Yeah.
So, if I get through this first phase...
Well, I'm not saying yes to the rest of it until I am happy with the answer on the paging
Yeah.
system.
Okay.
We can
Chris,
discuss
you don't
that.
have a problem
No, I don't.
with what I just... All right.
No,
So,
that this is proposed.
with those issues, I
Right.
think the board is willing to, you know, sign
you.
off for the occupancy permit,
Thank you.
except
This, I read the letter.
we have a letter
Right.
addressed to me from Pamela, 339 Judson Street,
Right.
about the loud intercom. Did you
We've
put a
addressed
new,
it. We've addressed it.
can
We
I,
have Dennis
can I,
Machado
can
down
can I
there.
finish, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Slow down.
All right.
There's only 3 people behind you, so
I just
we're not in a
have
rush.
Ton of energy, I
Nope,
apologize.
no problem.
Okay.
Did you put a new system in with the new renovations that you did?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So she's been there, she says 10 years, and she doesn't ever recall having a problem. Is this something that is easily addressed by where did those new speakers get put? Okay, where are those speakers that's causing this current concern, a noise on Judson Street?
Okay. The speaker directly behind the building was an added speaker. Okay? I've disconnected it from the PA system. Dennis verified that when he came down to the building. There's absolutely no volume going out that speaker. The northeast corner of the building, there was a speaker there. There always had been a speaker there. I believe we replaced that speaker with a newer one. It could be pushing a little bit more volume out there for certain, okay? We've turned the PA system from, it was about 8 or 9, we've turned it down to 5, and we've locked it at 5. It's down to the point right now to whereas we can't hear our internal paging, but yet the exterior still gives some paging on the exterior. When I was talking earlier, I said, maybe I can do a decibel test or something of that nature to see what we're actually putting out. Or if it comes to it, I'll just take the other speaker and disconnect it in the back. We'll cut the wires, we'll take it off the building. It doesn't matter if it's that much volume going out there. We did have that speaker there before, though. Was on a different PA system, it was an older system. Maybe it wasn't driving as much, I'm not really certain. But the fact of the matter is, I probably don't have to have speakers in the back of the building. It's only in an instance where somebody might be back there getting a car from inventory. We may need to page them for some reason. There's not that many incidents that I'd have to contact somebody back there. If it was better off with the board that those speakers came down, then that's what I'll do. We want to be good neighbors. We don't want anybody to be upset with us. At the same token, when Dennis came, which the volume hasn't been changed since then, he went back there, he thought it was at an acceptable level. But I'll be honest with you, back there, you don't have any trees or anything, especially this time of the year. That noise just travels.
All right,
It really
well, I
does.
think because unwiring them, in my opinion, is, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That's putting a Band-Aid on it. I would
Maybe
like to,
one of them, but not.
I would like to see them taken down,
Fine.
only because we don't want to hear about this in
I
a
don't
year
either.
from now, or
I
2
don't
years from
either.
now, or somebody
Yeah.
else, new manager comes in.
No,
And,
that's fine.
you
If
know.
that's what you require, if you want to hold some of the bond in order for me to take.
Well, I think we have more,
I
I think we have more than the bond. You don't have an occupancy permit on that next building. You are gonna be coming back in front of us
Right. And
for the occupancy permit for the next building.
Exactly.
So we do have additional, I think we have more, if we have your word that those speakers will not just be unplugged, but will come down,
We'll take 'em
be
down.
removed from the building.
then done.
Only so you don't have to, control your decibels
Because-
inside the building, because eventually somebody's gonna turn that up.
You're right, and
Yes,
I know
Burke.
that.
Well, perhaps instead of having them on the building, put them out back, but aim them towards Route 44? So in other words, they're not aimed towards Judson Street? That might make a big difference.
That would certainly be something I could look at in the future. Everything right now is underground, all our electrical and stuff. For me to get wires back there to try to deflect it forward, I don't think it would be, a fix for us. And I'm not sure that it would even be necessary. We have cell phones, we have two-way radios, we have quite a few other methods to contact people.
Well, I was actually surprised to see this letter, because over the years,
Me too.
there have been issues with several of the dealerships.
Right.
Obviously, you guys want lights and so on, and the people complain.
Yeah.
But the paging issue, that used to be a problem way back, and since people have gotten the cell phone and two-way radio, I haven't heard anybody complaining about noise in years.
You're right, and I actually could use a little bit more volume up front, because I have a dead area, so I may just take one of those speakers and put it up front. I don't think that would be any problem, and I'll probably do that. The back of the building, it was just maybe not the well-thought-out plan. We put them back there figuring that occasionally we're gonna have to call somebody. Honestly, if I take the speakers down, I can turn my volume back up inside, and we can hear the pages inside, because now we have to do phone paging because it's so low. But yeah,
Well,
whatever the town
Maureen,
wants.
Was this letter, did anybody contact us, contact you, Maryland?
Today.
Today.
In fact, there was an issue today.
Yeah.
Okay,
They've spoken to Dennis the last couple of weeks ago.
yeah, I see that they spoke to him.
It's not a big deal, just take them down.
Is there, we have their number, or how did you leave it? Are you gonna correspond back to them, let them know what?
Yeah, we'll get in touch with her.
Because I think, holding up the occupancy permit, my feeling is, I think that's just wasting everybody's time. With these few issues that we have here, I think holding the $8,300, $8,314 for springtime, I think would take care of the catch basin cleaning and whatever trees that needs to be addressed.
I'll take the gentleman's word for it that he's going to move those speakers.
And with that, I would like to notify her that the speakers will be removed. I would like for you to notify the planning office as soon as that they are removed, not just unplugged, but
No, they'll be done.
removed.
Yep.
And then if we can just confirm that, okay, it's been a month, it's been 2 months, it's been 3 months. Because again, like I said, they will be coming back in front of us for an occupancy permit for the next building.
Yep.
And I think we have enough leeway, there's enough time in between that this will be taken care of.
Right.
So you had a,
The building inspector asked me to ask the planning board if it would be prudent in the future to put something in the regulations about speakers.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a good idea.
and we have it in there about, generators, or we have it in there for noise. It's something, I'm sure, it's an oversight, something that you don't think of as a,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
intercom speaker, but a speaker,
Yeah,
you know, I
you really
can,
don't think about it, it's just, it's noise.
it's
pollution, I
vibration,
understand.
and
Yeah.
vibration sometimes is
Yep.
worse than trailer trucks going by.
Right, and if you'd like to take my direct number down, I'll be happy to provide that too, and if the person has a problem with it, call me directly, because that's what's happened in the past. There was 4 or 5 phone calls one time, and I never even heard about it, until it escalated. And unfortunately, that's when I found out, but if you want, I'd be happy to provide my direct number, and somebody can certainly call me.
You can give that to Marilyn, and
Okay.
she'll put it in the folder, in the
Yeah,
file.
all
and,
right, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and we can keep these photos, just
Oh, absolutely, they're yours.
confirming.
Yep, yep, they're
Maybe,
yours.
Maureen, maybe we can provide fax copy of
Frame
that
it
to
in your office.
Judith Nitch,
Yes.
just showing them that was completed. So, at this time, I would suggest that we,
I'll make a motion to grant the occupancy permit, subject to retaining the 8,300 thereabouts,
8314.
8314,
What's in the letter?
you know, it's left in the bond on Judith Nitch's estimate in his January 19th letter.
Discussion?
Probably should be worded that we would advise the building inspector to issue the permit.
Yeah.
And along with that, advising the building inspector, it should also be stated in the certificate that it is subject to removing, because those speakers were not on the original plan that we approved. So removing 2 speakers that were added to the building,
Correct,
so the building inspector will
verify that.
know that that's not, that way there, when they go out, when he goes out there, Dennis will see that they've been taken down.
Not a problem.
Did you get that, Maureen?
I did.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Place looks great over there.
Thank you very much. Really good. Thank you.
Drove by today, I says, oh, watch this trailer truck coming down, full of
Yeah.
cars. I said, watch this, they're gonna park in the street and start unloading, and I'm gonna pull in. I'm gonna make Burke so proud.
Please tell me that.
And they went up the side street,
Yeah.
went out back. I says, oh,
Yeah.
jeez, I can't cause any,
Yeah.
Any
yeah,
commotion
I think
tonight?
that's working pretty good.
No, it looks-
We yell at them if they ever try to do that, you know what I mean?
no, I like the entrance. I think it really came
Yeah.
out nice.
Good.
No, it looks good,
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Nice how they raised a couple spots for the cars, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah, it looks
very nice.
Good.
great.
What did
Yeah,
Bobby
we hope
say?
it adds
It's
to the town.
That's a hot
Great.
top.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a top Hyundai in New England?
Yeah, well, that's what he said, last time. Okay, town planner, open space plan.
Okay, do you mind if I stand up here?
No, you may.
You're gonna read it to us, right?
I'm gonna sit here and read the whole 298 pages.
Right.
Did you get your copy?
Something just came up. I gotta
Yours is downstairs.
Okay.
No, oh yeah, that's right, I was supposed to get it. To-do list.
This Open Space Committee was appointed in 2009, so it only took us 3 years really to get this done. The process is we took the 2002 plan and reviewed the plan and updated the information to today's information. However, it got far more complicated than that because the state changed the regulations. There's far more required, much more detail about your inventory of land that took a considerable amount of time to do. But I want to mention that the committee members that participated in this with me, on the Conservation Commission, Paul Dooley, the Water Districts, both Arthur Bendinelli and William Ward, Board of Health, Lou Bosquet helped, representing the Board and Colony and the Park and Rec Department, Liz Francis, Historical Commission, again, Lou Bosquet, Serped, Bill Napolitano helped us from Serped, and I want to thank Gordon Luciano is here. He represented the Assessor's Office. Town Administration was represented by Randy Buckner, Finance Committee, Dwayne Wheeler, and Town Residents Harry Carey, Jim Burns, and Michael Donnelly. Harry Carey, yep. And I'll tell you, it was a very faithful committee. They showed, I just generally had full attendance at every meeting, so I have to say I really appreciated it. I have a few things that I'm going to hand out, which makes it a little bit easier for you to understand what I'm saying. The first thing we did was we took a survey, we resurveyed the community. We put the survey online, we had the survey in the library. We put a survey in every single Raynham call. Basically, it was to ask some of the same questions that were asked in the 2002, just to verify that people still felt the same way. Interestingly enough, the responses indicated there was a change somewhat. In the last, the number one priority was a indoor recreation center, and that didn't even, it came in very low on the list this time around. It seems that most people were looking at bike trails, fitness trails, public access to water, hiking, and cross-country trails. So it appears that we have a citizenry that likes to stay active, and they're looking for those kinds of amenities that you might see in other towns or parks that would make it easier for people to exercise, enjoy the outdoors. We do, however, did receive very good responses about the level of recreation we currently provide through the Recreation Department. There was a noted improvement of the responses for that. The other thing that came out of the review of the other plan, and I want to describe for people that it's very comprehensive, the plans. They look at, we look at community settings, we look at environmental inventory and analysis, they look at soils, landscape character, water resources, vegetation, fisheries and wildlife, scenic resources, and environmental challenges. We also take an inventory of private open space parcels, public nonprofit open space parcels, and recreation parcels, which I'll hand out to you. We describe a community vision. There's a statement of open space and recreation goals. We look at analysis of need. We ask various departments and agencies what is needed. We set goals and objectives, and we set up a 7-year action plan. When we took a look at the building, one of the things that was interesting was we looked at single-family permits over a period of 12 years. We had a high of 122 permits that we issued in 2004 and a low of 9 permits in 2009 for an average of about 67 a year, which described, if you look at the table, it describes very effectively how up and down it has been over the last 12 years in terms of development. Under the areas of scenic and conservation interest, the plan showed that the Taunton River was very high in the interest of conservation and scenic and conservation interest, but also described were several water bodies that you're all familiar with: Bassett Brook, Damlot Brook, Forge River, Johnson Pond, Gushy Pond, Tracy Pond, Kings Pond, Hewitt's Pond. In addition, they are interested in the preservation of Borden Colony and possible trail locations. When we did the inventory of lands, and I will give you a copy of those inventory. What did I do with them? Oh, they're right here. This, by the way, this inventory that I'm going to give to you has a list of private parcels, and only the Planning Board and the Open Space Committee itself has this, because we don't really want to put this publicize people's private property. But it was a requirement of the plan that we list all open space parcels, and we picked open space parcels that were more than 5 acres in acreage in the town of Raynham. And we identified 3,138 acres of private open space parcels. The reason they ask you to do this is they want you to identify those parcels within the community that might be conducive for preservation or conservation or even recreation. And once you've looked at them, the committee took a look to see whether or not some of those properties should be pursued for purchase either by the town or private nonprofits such as Wildlands Trust or the Nature Conservancy for preservation. And in fact, we have been actively involved with the Wildlands Trust and the Nature Conservancy for two potential purchases within Raynham, one constituting about 85 acres and another one about 100 acres. So if those, if that activity moves forward, this plan will help us make the case to the self-help, the land grant, that those purchases should be supported by the state, which is another reason you do the open space plan, is you have to have this approved in order to qualify for land grants. So the inventory of land showed us that we have 215 acres of APR land. We have 117, almost 118 acres of Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B land. As I said, we have 3,138 acres of unprotected open space, privately owned land. The town owns 967 acres, state-owned land 136. Nonprofit land trusts, that's the Wildlands Trust that purchased the Oxbow for 57 acres. We have 136 acres of recreation parcels that are private and 211 acres of recreation parcels that are public. One of the interesting things about the inventory was something that the Planning Board was responsible for, and that was that we preserved, since the last open space plan, 164 acres of homeowners trust land. These are lands that had been set aside under the open space subdivision regulation. And that was, besides the 57 acres that was purchased by Wildlands Trust, that was the bulk of the land that had been set aside since the last 2002 plan. So that, you know, it shows that that subdivision article has helped preserve land. We also asked in the survey how the community would like to, what would be the strategy for preserving open space. 74% responded they would like to require open space be set aside in new subdivisions, which is clearly happening. 74% said they would support a tax reduction program to protect farmland. 61% supported a town-supported land acquisition, and 61% said limit development to preserve farmland. The vision statement on page 34, and I'll just read it because it kind of describes how the community is feeling. The vision statement says, Raynham will utilize the framework of its natural landscape to foster a vision of conservation and recreation activities which will enhance the town's rural character. A green belt of wetlands, ponds, rivers, streams, and water resources which constitute the Taunton River watershed will be conserved. Scenic, historic, agricultural, and habitat resources which define town character are also to be protected. A series of trails, sidewalks, bike paths, canoe and kayak launch areas, and scenic roads which will facilitate access and circulation through and between these resource areas and connecting major public facilities will be developed into a cohesive landscape of residences and commercial centers connected by resource areas, scenic roads, and trails. Under the analysis of need, we looked at the analysis of need and we saw the following needs. The protection of the Taunton River watershed was one of the largest need. Wastewater management, which is being addressed through the Phase 6 sewer, which has also been an improvement over 2012. I think there was an improvement of your portion of your sewer during that time that helped to meet that particular need. They'd also like to see a reduction of impervious surfaces for stormwater systems to improve stormwater runoff. Roadway improvements to preserve historic and scenic assets. Water resource protection. They requested more communication between land use authority and water districts when citing large development projects, which I think is also happening. Under flood-prone areas, looking for improvements to infrastructure to lessen flooding. Wetlands mapping, this was on the 2002, and we did not change it. Adopt stricter enforcement of 25-foot no-touch zone. Under environmentally sensitive areas, the recommendation was a balanced approach. Roughly a third of the town of Raynham is covered by the Natural Heritage Scenic Endangered Species Act, and it's protected. What the plan is suggesting is that there be a balanced approach to developing it near those areas. We understand, for instance, very close to Route 138, above 495, many of those commercial lots abut this area of natural heritage. However, we would love to see a lot of those areas redeveloped, so there has to be a balanced approach as to how we view that and how we approach it in the future. Acquisition, the Open Space Committee identified 26 priority parcels out of that 3,000 square acres. They identified 26 priority parcels that should be looked at, and 2 of the parcels I talked about are on that list. Under the economics of open space preservation, the interesting thing about open space preservation, and I have some statistics about the cost, and we don't want to say that families with children should not be allowed, but the cost of developing land, the services needed, sometimes is more than preserving it through acquisition. So the suggestion was that that should be looked at in the future in terms of protecting open space. I also printed off a table that I thought was very enlightening in terms of where we are. Now, let me find it. Bear with me. There it is. This comes from the plan itself. You'll see on that table, table 22, it lists the entire acreage in Raynham as 13,350 acres. Under that, there's existing 5,156 acres of residential land, 1,053 acres of commercial land, 1,816 of other developed land. Waterways constitutes 180 acres. So the total open space is 5,145 acres, and of that, only 1,493 are protected, leaving 3,652 acres unprotected. If you look over at the areas at full build-out, which is the 4th column over, we have an additional potential to increase residential land by 2,735 acres. And that would constitute at full build-out of 59% of the land area. Another 524 acres of commercial land could be developed, which represents almost 12% of the land area. Once that has happened, your protected open space, if nothing more is protected, you'd still have 11.2% of your space would be open space and 2.9% left unprotected open space. I'm just going to read this quickly, which follows this table. The rate at which open space is being developed in Raynham is a concern. In the 2002 open space plan, the amount of open space, including protected and unprotected, total 8,750 acres, or 65% of the town land area. Today, there are 5,145 acres of open space, which is a reduction of 27% in just 8 years. However, it's important to note that some progress has been made. In 2002, Raynham had 1,157 acres of protected open space. Today, you have 1,493 acres, or 336 acres of new protected open space. Unfortunately, the rate of development of residential and commercial areas is nearly double the rate at which the community is able to preserve land. As open space becomes less abundant, the cost of preserving land will increase as a result. The goals and objectives were set by the committee. They didn't change much from the previous one, but I'll just list the goals. To preserve and protect the natural resources of the Taunton River and its watershed, to establish a rural green belt of scenic and conservation interest, to maintain and expand recreation facilities, infrastructure, and programs, to improve access to rivers and ponds and recreation and scenic areas, and to use the powers and resources of town government. I also am going to pass out the action plan. As a result of this, we are required to put together an action plan, in this case, a 7-year action plan. They've changed the requirement, fortunately, to update open space plan from 5 years to 7 years, so you have a little more time to carry out your action plan. You can see it's somewhat lengthy, but so I won't read it all. But for instance, under an objective, protect Raynham's drinking water, acquire additional land area around proposed wellheads. A lot of that has happened. It continues to happen. Undertake low-impact development principles in future development. As you know, we are just putting together some changes in our regulations to include low-impact development principles. To protect designated areas and proposed resource areas, to prepare a flood hazard mitigation plan. I'm actually attending a hazard mitigation plan workshop next week, something that the town really needs to do, and it isn't just flooding, which is why it's so costly to do. It's every type of hazard you can imagine in a town. You have to try to come up with a plan to mitigate it. But you cannot access hazard flood mitigation grants without the plan. Again, a plan is required. Utilize infrastructure improvements to protect resource areas. One of them is to carry out Phase 6 of the sewer facility plan, which is in the works. Maintain a balance between development and protection. Again, examine barriers to developing along routes 138 and 44 that encourage highest and best uses without damage to the environment. We are in the process of doing a study of Route 138 to do some of that as well. That'll begin in April, that study. Collaborate with conservation entities to protect sites of scenic conservation, recreation, and historic interest to form a rural greenbelt. We are currently working with Nature Conservancy and Wildlands Trust to do just that. We're also hoping to work with owners of sites of conservation and recreation interest to develop an interest for property owners towards conservation efforts. Provide better access to areas of scenic, historic, and recreation interest. Again, there was a great demand for public access and parking. We need to look for public access and parking to areas of ponds and the Taunton River. Protect existing lands and properties of agricultural interest. This is getting harder and harder to do. Raynham has lost a tremendous number of acres of farmland over the years. In fact, we do have in our plan in the appendix the actual conservation plan for Borden Colony because it is APR land. And the town should continue to actively pursue that. Continue to improve maintenance, establish biking and hiking trails. This is probably going to be the hardest thing to accomplish. It's very expensive to do. If you establish biking paths in front of people's homes, people often don't like to have bicyclists, riding through their front yard. So it's one of the toughest things to do. Perhaps the best way to do it is to put hiking trails through open space you already have. There's a state park here that should have trails. There is a trail through it, but it's very poorly marked and overgrown. So there are ways to provide some of the hiking and trails and maybe off-road biking trails. Develop new recreation facilities in underserved areas. There was an interest in the survey of establishing more neighborhood-type parks. People seem to want more access close by to their homes for playgrounds and parks. So as the town proceeds with any planning or subdivision, large subdivisions, you might want to keep that in mind. Improve access to rivers and ponds, eliminate barriers to physically impaired. A lot of what we did was a review of ADA compliance for your conservation areas and your playgrounds and recreation areas. There's virtually no ADA access to conservation areas, and the recreation areas are just okay. There are a lot of room for improvement in that area. Interconnect public facilities, residential, commercial areas, and recreation facilities. Again, this involves sidewalks and bike trails to make access between neighborhoods and commercial areas. Provide access to the Taunton River and local ponds for kayaking, fishing, and trails. Again, there are 3 suggestions for identifying priorities, look for funding for this sort of thing. Establish a conservation trust for conservation land acquisition. I think the Wildlands Trust provides this service. If people would like to donate their lands, they can donate their lands to the Wildlands Trust, and they will take care of it. They have volunteers who help. It has to be a certain kind of land. They won't take just anything, but they will definitely are interested in helping the community preserve land that way. Carry out a proposed system of conservation and recreation trails. Again, we talked about that. Adopt road and sidewalk standards that encourage biking and walking, and provide signage and maps to identify conservation areas. So that is our 7-year action plan. Again, the appendices holds the conservation plan for Morden Colony. We have probably 15 maps in here. Only 8 are required, so the mapping was very well done. I brought along the map that shows the inventory of lands of conservation and recreation interests. The public lands are in like a maroon color. The privately held, the 33,183 acres are shown in pink, and the protected open space is in green. So you can see just visually how much open space is left to be developed. And the most pressing, I think, the most attention should be paid to the Taunton River watershed area along the Taunton River. There are a lot of opportunities, and in addition to that, the Nature Conservancy is very interested in preserving that land, so they have funding sources that, should we define or identify areas along the Taunton River, property that people would be willing to sell, we should pursue that with their help. We also have in here the ADA plan, the Raynham Priority Protection and Priority Development Area that was identified through the South Coast Rail, and we have the land inventory. If anyone would like to review this plan, I can't let this is almost 300 pages. They can come to my office and leaf through it, or they can ask me for a disc. I can provide a CD for them. And the final plan will be placed on the town's website. We would love people to review it, provide any suggestions or comments. It's still in a draft form. And we will be looking for people to volunteer for a steering committee to try to enact some of the things that were recommended from the plan. So anyone interested in participating after the plan is approved, I think the community will be more than happy to have that kind of volunteer help. Gordon, did you want to add anything?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, first and foremost, the Ethics Committee, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the extensive and outstanding work that Marilyn put into this as our town planner. She's been a gem to work with, and this, as you have seen, is the culmination of a lot of hard work over a period of 3 years. And the credit goes to her and her staff and her efforts, and I know Maureen was also very helpful working in the office. We are a small town, and we rely on volunteers to serve on the boards, but we have to first and foremost recognize those that are on our staff for their great work. It really is 3 things. It's a blueprint of where we are today. It's a snapshot, if you will, of exactly what's happened over the years to get us to the point of 2012. and it's a vision of where we should go, or would like to go in the future. And that vision is, once again, comes down to really one sentence: the quality of life of the residents here in Raynham. We believe that the recommendations improve the quality of life and enhance upon some of the fine things that have been done in the past. And the last point is it opens us up to the ability to apply for a host of different grants that we currently would not have been able to apply for without an active plan. So that plays a role in reducing or minimizing tax impacts if we can tap into different grant programs to fund some of the initiatives. So I encourage the commission at their leisure to grab a disc. It is extensive reading. Probably can't be done in an evening, but it is extremely educational. And I think it would be, as members of the planning board, it would be very helpful in many of the areas that you work so hard to address each and every week. Thank you.
Very good.
Any questions?
Well, I would just comment, I haven't made it anywhere near through the whole thing, but as you say, it's very well written. It is very informative. I recommend it to anyone who is interested in Raynham and where we are and how we got here to read it.
Russ, any questions?
No.
Chris?
Copy for Maureen.
Zip right through it. Do we have any abutting towns that have bike trails that there's potential for connecting to?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that something that the committee looked into, or?
No, but it would be something a steering committee would do. I know that there's an active, or there was an active, regional bike group that was looking to connect communities through bike paths, and they've been relatively successful on the South Shore, connecting bike paths, but.
Another question. The members of the committee they're all either on a board or representing another board.
Right.
Are they all Raynham residents?
Yes, yes.
So all of these boards, you had mentioned, I'm not sure, was it the highway department or?
Well, I can mention the boards that they represent. We did, I want to point out how much help Allison Gillum was from the Wildlands Trust. She really took over the inventory. The inventory was took so much time. I don't know how it used to be when they started these open space plans, a group of volunteers together would write something up and send it, and the state would be okay. Now it's like a major undertaking in the inventory, so I want to be sure that she gets credit for that. The Water District, Conservation Commission, Board of Health was represented, Park and Rec, Historic Commission, Wildlands Trust, Board of Assessors, Town Administrator, Finance Committee, and Town Residents. The only one that wasn't a resident is Bill Napolitano. He basically started us out. He helped us out originally. But yeah, everyone else was a resident.
I think one thing that this board can address going forward is whenever these open space ideas come in front of us, we look at it as a board, and I really do feel that if we are planning on preserving anything at all in the future, we have to have rules and regs that will make, let's just take a TDR, for example. If you're gonna have somebody preserve their land and do a transfer, you really have to have the rules and regs so it is by right. If they meet these criteria, it's by right. I've been here for almost 10 years, and that's the one thing that I see, that unless we make a change, that it's not something that any one of us can say we don't like, things will never get preserved. And landowners will never want to go forward to try to preserve it. We had an opportunity to preserve over on Mill Street.
Jim Williams?
Jim Williams. And I think I was on the board for a couple of weeks when that first came in, and I even got hollered at from a few people. When that came in, I see that piece of property now, and I would be totally different today than I was when we voted on it back then. And I think, including myself, we don't look at always the value that we're getting out of it. We look at the value that the applicant is bringing, or the applicant is getting out of it, and that's backwards. We're looking at it wrong, in my opinion. If somebody's stepping up to maybe not make as much money on their piece of property, but are willing to sacrifice some of that because they would like to preserve it, then I really think it's gotta be by right.
I do think going forward that your steering committee could help to find some of those things, because preserving land, there are different reasons you preserve land. You might preserve land because it's a habitat that you want to protect. You don't want people walking through it. But there are other times you want to preserve land for recreational purposes, where you want people to have access to a water body or access to a trail. So, you know, I think your steering committee can make some determinations as to where you want to prioritize, how, and who holds that preservation restriction. I know we've struggled with that with the homeowners trust, whether it should be a homeowners trust or the Conservation Commission. You know, there are different benefits to each of them. So sometimes with a homeowners trust, you don't have public access. You're only giving access to the people who live there. So I think that there's a lot of things that a steering committee could weigh in terms of making recommendations to the planning board as to going forward, how they'd like to see that land preserved, and who's going to take care of it. Maintenance is another issue. One reason the Wildlands Trust is getting fussy about it is they don't want to maintain small, inaccessible pieces of property that people want to donate to them. They want something that people have access, or it's a way to get to a stream or a river or something along that line. So preservation has gotten far more sophisticated than it was just even 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and again, I think that's for a discussion for all of us to have, and
Right.
I think it's something, if we're planning on really embracing the open space, I think each board is really gonna have to look at it and kind of take 2 steps back and say, this isn't about the person that's standing in front of us. This isn't about how much money he's gonna make or not gonna make. This is about,
Should be a public benefit.
it's a benefit. And again, I think about it. I've been here for, like I said, almost 10 years, and I think about it all the time, that I made a mistake on Jim Williams's piece. And, you know, we cost the applicant a lot of money to go through all that process. And if, you know, it just can't be that way. If it's gonna be, you have to meet a criteria. If you meet that criteria, you get the stamp. And I think it has to be that, and whatever the criteria is, I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but whatever the criteria is, if you meet that criteria, it's not up to a 5-member board. The 5-member board can, you know, put their stamp on it, but I think it has to be a must. Or else it's a risk. You know, somebody's gonna take that risk, they're not gonna turn around and, you know, wanna spend $100,000 to possibly lose $100,000, because it's just, the other, on a lot of these public areas, soccer fields, baseball fields, that are not accessible, you know, a lot of the stuff right now that you're talking about is town-owned property. How do we get funds to make these, you said a lot of our fields and a lot of our things are not handicap accessible. And so, again, we can identify those things. It took the town years to even make the schools accessible. So I'm not sure, you know, again, are these things that aid or funds or grants that we can go after?
Occasionally there are grants. I haven't investigated whether the Department of Conservation and Recreation has grants, but I imagine they would. But I do think it's a commitment that the town has to make in terms of, you know, identifying those areas they'd like to improve in terms of accessibility.
Well,
And-
and again, just as discussion purposes, you know, when, hopefully you're still gonna be here when the boards all start meeting, I would take a good look at what the town owns. Let's clean house before we go and expect everybody else in the town to do the same. Let's look at every town-owned piece of property. And are they handicap accessible? And is it something that everybody in the town can benefit by? And if it's not, then those are the first grants we should go after.
Well, you do actually have a transition plan. The town has, all the buildings have been examined for handicap accessibility, so there is a transition plan. And I do think, in fact, when I had Randy update the ADA requirement, he noted the improvements in 10 years that they've made. So there have been improvements made. Yeah,
I understand,
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand that, and they have been,
right.
but you're identifying still that there's a lot
Right.
that the town has, and I'm just saying, I think, you know, when this goes forward, we should look at what, I think money is, over these next maybe 5 years, money might still be available, and it's a great opportunity to go
Right.
after money when things are low.
Right.
Economy's down, you know, everybody wants people to get back to work, there's gonna be a lot of money floating around still. So I think if we go after what we can improve, what the town owns currently, I think those should almost be the first things that we, you know, address. But no, I think it's a great job, a lot of information, and
Okay.
I'm like Burke, I opened it up and my computer crashed with so many pages on it. So thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Yep.
All right, and thank you. I'm sure so now is the committee done meeting?
Yep.
It would be nice if the committee members could get a nice thank you letter from, you know, the town, because I just think, like you said, the amount of years that it's, 3 years putting into it. It is all volunteer, most of these departments are volunteer, but still, it's hard when you volunteer and you don't, you come up with a lot of good ideas, and I'm one that, I like to see things happen. I don't care if you're doing right, wrong, or indifferent, or however you get there, I just like to see things happen. And it's kinda hard when you're volunteering and you say, okay, well, the maps look good, you know, let's take it to the next step.
I'm hoping a couple of them will volunteer for the steering committee.
I think it would be important, because they're the ones that know firsthand what was said in those meetings. And, but I would recommend that we, you know, even if it's as a board, if we, you know, give them a letter of appreciation for their time, and, because it is a lot. All right, thank you. Anything from the public on what you heard about the open space? Any comments? Okay. Next, we have discussion on Gatsby Gardens site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name's Ed Brennan. I'm an attorney with an office at 1 Church Green in Taunton. I'm here tonight for discussion purposes on behalf of Marcus Baptiste, who is an individual who's looking at the Gatsby Gardens project with an eye towards completing it. Niall Zager is with me also from Outback Engineering. They've been the engineers on the project since the early 80s, early 2000s when it was first designed. You're probably all somewhat familiar with it. It's at Gadsby Road or Drive goes off of Middleborough Avenue. The front part's in Taunton and the rear part's in Raynham. And it was approved in 2004 for some multifamily apartments. 2 lots, lots 4 and lot 5. And lot 5 was in fact built. They were approved for 2 eight-unit buildings, each one on a separate lot, but they were approved as a single site plan. And the first 8 units were built on lot 5, and lot 4 was started, foundation was poured. Some of the site work was done, all the drainage structures are on site, but they haven't been installed. So right now, it's stalled and it's kind of a mess. But Mr. Baptiste is interested and is working with a bank to try to purchase the property. We asked to be put on the agenda tonight really for the purpose of just bringing the board up to date as to what has happened, which really is nothing, and to confirm with the board that it's my understanding, and I've gone through the bylaw with an eye towards whether or not a site plan approval could expire due to age or inactivity. And I didn't see anything in the bylaws that would lead me to believe that there was a lifeline or a term on a site plan approval. The Lot 5 was built out, as-built were submitted, and the town, it was approved by the board, the bond was released, and it's built as it was required to be built. And the same thing would be done with what we call Phase 2 on Lot number 4. But as Mr. Baptiste goes through the process of doing his due diligence on this project, we wanted to at least get some input from the board as to whether or not there was any sentiment that, in fact, the site plan approval could expire. It was approved by vote of October 28th in 2004, filed shortly thereafter with the town clerk. And that was for the entire site.
I have a question, and you're saying the entire site was one site plan?
That's
And
correct.
it's
2
half-built,
lots,
a little more
correct.
than half-built, so
But
you've already acted on whatever permit
Interestingly,
would be, I
each
think.
one would constitute a standalone lot. Lot 4 meets all of the zoning requirements for multifamily, and Lot 5 does also.
But it was done as one
It
site.
was done as one site plan, but there are 2 distinct lots. And the building that was built is entirely on Lot 5.
So it's site plan approval, not special permit, it's just site plan approval.
That's correct. That's
Seems to
correct.
me like you've acted on it.
Right. Yeah,
By
in fact,
virtue
the
of building the
foundation
first
is in
building.
on the other
Yeah.
one. It's capped over, and I went out and took a look at it. It certainly would be an improvement if someone could pick the project up and finish it. But it's just part of the due diligence. We wanted to bring this up with the
I mean,
board.
it's similar to
You were,
Bella Estates.
You were
Yes.
here when that, I think, was
Foundation.
all
Yeah.
got started and established. And I remember early on, when I was here, I think they came in for that other building. They built one of those.
It's been a long time. One building is built, you say 8 units, and
Can I roll the plan out at my phone?
there's 8 units occupied.
Well, it's
All
kind of-
right, and the other one, it's sounding like a builder got a construction loan with the bank, started construction, and the bank is foreclosed?
Is the bank taking?
The bank is not foreclosed, it's a short sale situation at this point?
It's Mr. Baptiste.
I mean, this would be similar to Bella Estates, which was Mike and Tosh's. That's on Hill Street. That's 54 condo units. I don't know how many buildings, but maybe 8 or 10. That was approved with a site plan just like this, and if they wanted to come in today and sign a building permit, get a building permit to pull up a building, I mean, and they're
And they already
4
have
or
the.
5
they
years
have-
old.
Right,
and
they have
so
the
they're good to
utilities
go, and
already in.
you're way past them.
See, the way it was set up originally, this was a condo project with Lot 5 being Phase 1, Lot 4 being Phase 2. But they do, this doesn't show it very well because this is a busy plan, but Lot 5, which is the first one in, is complete, and that's the as-bills have been filed, all the security has been released, and the foundation's in here. So we want to finish this up, and we just wanted to make sure that I was reading the bylaw correctly, I didn't see an expiration, and point out to the board that in fact, each building, although approved as one site plan, each building sits on a lot that conforms to multifamily requirements. in and
Is
of
this
itself.
road all in?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think,
Yeah,
I don't think you have.
At this point,
Probably
you,
should have the time limit on it.
yeah. I mean, at this
Well,
point, even if it's one separate lot, it's a
It's on a road.
legal use.
Right.
It conforms to it. You just pull a permit. It's just like a lot of subdivision. If it was 12 years old, it'd be the same thing.
And the fact that it's been approved as a whole, I mean, certainly there's interaction between the two when it was approved, so it still gets built in accordance with the site plan, however they interact. But it was just something that we wanted to touch bases with this board on and see if there was any concerns.
I remember when this one came in, there was a big grade difference or slope difference or something.
Somebody came back along the way and had some issues, and I think we might have done a modification.
Remember there was-
Dick Kelly came in.
There was
And
something.
he was representing a
Something.
woman who had owned it at the time. And and I think you were represented, Kelly, right?
There was a minor
And
modification.
there was some minor, like some design changes,
Yeah, I
and I
remember there was
forget,
a-
whatever it was an
something-
improvement.
something-
but it
Yeah,
was-
it was-
Something to
Great, I
do with the
thought.
slopes or.
Slopes were an issue?
I believe there was an interconnecting
This,
sidewalk.
see this?
Do you
Yeah, it's
remember?
right here. See this sidewalk that went between the two? This grade is much lower than this one. And to build that, I don't think you could ever make a safe sidewalk, certainly not for, you need to
Be
do
fun if you're a
something, yeah.
skateboarder.
The skateboarder would love it. So I think and I have a copy in the date of the minor modification, but I didn't have the letter requesting what the modification was. But it had to do with this interconnecting sidewalk between the two buildings, because there's a substantial
Yeah, I
grade
remember something
difference.
Is there a
Grading.
sidewalk that runs all along the street?
Along here, it looks like it.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's on
sidewalk on
both
both
sides.
sides.
Yeah, something,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Niall Digger from Outback Engineering. That sidewalk was a recommendation by your review engineer when we were going through the original review process, and it was something that was agreed upon. When the new applicant came in, Bald Eagle Development, and was actually involved in the construction of the property, felt as though it wasn't, it wasn't necessary, and it was something that wouldn't really work. The review engineer wanted something to interconnect, the two properties, but however, at the time. we
yeah, I
agreed
remember
upon
there
it.
was a big issue on the
Yeah.
elevation.
Correct. I think it was, the idea was,
Do you need something from us?
No, I just, this is really just part of Mr. Baptiste getting all his ducks in a row before he makes any commitments on the property. And when I went through the bylaw, site plan approval, I could find no, and the certificate of action, nothing that would lead me to believe that it had a 2-year life or anything like that on it.
No, I think you're good to go. I think everybody's in agreements.
Okay,
All right,
thank you for your time.
no problem. Have a good night. Thank
That
you.
was brought up when the bylaw went through, there'd be a time limit on it, that.
Okay, Form A, South Street East. Step right up.
Next contestant.
State your name for the record.
Paul Bernal.
And you are,
I don't know if that, just to put it out there, I own a bunch of, several mobile homes over at their apartment.
Manufactured housing.
So you're
Manufactured
paying high
Oh,
rent?
well,
Manufactured housing.
You paying too much rent,
those,
are you, Russ?
those were built to a mobile home. Now they're
all right,
manufactured
all right, all right, all right. We have,
houses. So,
does anybody object to Russ sitting on this?
Well, we only need 3 if he's uncomfortable.
I'm just
Russ
putting it
Russ
out
isn't
there.
uncomfortable. He's just asking the question, so I hear nobody objecting, Russ. It's a Form A. I don't think it's a major issue. So hearing no objections, I think you can sit on this board. So, what are you doing here?
Just tearing down the old building, putting 2 house lots there.
This was Joe T's. It was Joe T's.
Wow, the neighbors must
No
be
more food, no
thrilled.
more beer, no,
No
those are
more
you
beer.
guys.
After they lost their liquor license, they,
Yeah. No, I reviewed this with Paul myself, earlier, brought me a paper copy, and, plan was pretty complete.
so this is the sewer department's
Yeah, that's where all
right away?
the sewer from Hill Street area comes through Miller Drive all the way down.
All through the
Um,
parking stuff.
I guess maybe I can't act on this because it has sewer, does it? That wouldn't matter, does it?
No.
But it comes all through the park.
The sewer's not on that property, Chris.
You don't have a
Then
financial.
it comes
interest
down,
on
it comes down to the South Street East Pump Station by the river.
it.
Goes into Taunton.
You guys have owned a lot of land here. This house, that old house here, is anybody living there?
No, Chitwood's mother's,
She
well,
actually
Kenny
just
Mackey.
moved out not too long ago, went to a
Yeah.
nursing home.
She's in,
Really?
well, she's in housing for the elderly.
Housing for the elderly.
down
So you
on
might be
Hill
able to clean the whole thing up then, huh?
They used to
We
own
gotta
it.
get started somewhere.
Yeah,
So-
The father used to own Joe T's back when it was Mayfair. Mr.
Really?
Macknick, owned Mayfair. And then he passed away young, and the mother stayed there for a
Now,
long time, and
we-
now she's in.
We had received a letter about a driveway
That's 2 lots up.
Oh, that's up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So this house that's here now, is that your house too? The number
Yes, it is.
95? Now
Yes.
that's vacant too, right?
No, we're still, it's still in use and stuff.
June, which one is June?
It's just another realty trust.
Oh.
Another time, a different month. There's 12 of us.
Any questions?
Well, parcel A, not a buildable lot.
That's how they formed it, yes.
That is part of the land that is.
Yes,
So you're
well,
getting-
it was part of the land that we purchased when we purchased Joti's. We're only making the 40,000 square foot lots out front. You know,
Okay.
the rest of the land, we're not sure what we'll do with.
I mean, that abuts the pie.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Any other questions?
Well, I see some wetlands.
They have over 32,000.
Have over 32, that's fine.
I saw flags out there, so I'm sure it's all flagged.
yeah, that's where they got all the notes.
Well, who is currently the owner, and where is the municipal lien in the application?
Application. Megan,
Set the check and
And
the
copy of deed?
copy of the deed and the check.
I mean, you just
Well, where did
transfer
you
on
get
the
the
thing this past
municipal
month,
lien?
so the taxes have to be paid.
Well, where's the copy? Did you get the municipal lien?
No, I didn't.
I mean, you just passed on the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, all liens have to be paid upon passing, so you,
I haven't
Yeah.
thought
your
about it.
taxes have to be up to
Yeah,
date.
because I thought she was supposed to bring it down to you.
Didn't see it.
Denied. Boy, wonder how long
Oh,
that
it's
place
the
has been there,
original, So he can't take
you know?
that. This is.
That bar's been there a long
The
time.
walls could talk.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're
Just
talking
one
about.
night I'll be quiet.
No, I used to play pool there a lot in the pool league. They used to have Wednesday night, they had open league. Very first night I played against this Portuguese guy from Fall River I worked for years ago. Hadn't seen him in 10, 15 years. I racked, he broke and ran, and then you get double elimination. I drew him again. Never got to shoot once. But it had a nice pool for a while there. It had a nice pool hall.
Marilyn, do you have anything on it? So Maureen, you're waiting on,
I will check into the MLC tomorrow.
so if everything's all right?
Any taxes got paid at closing? I don't have anything.
Okay.
There you go.
Chris, you wanna?
I'd make a motion to approve a plan as approval under subdivision control law not required. Title, Plan of Land, Site, Assessors Map 17, lots 145 and 146, 75 South Street East, Raynham, Mass., prepared for GB Sons Construction Company by Silva Engineering Associates, dated 1/12/11. Should be 1/12/12, but I guess maybe he did it a year ago anticipating you buying it.
The mass meeting, probably a little.
I don't think the registry will care.
Isn't there something about?
The first month of the year, you get to have typos and forget that it's still not the same year. That's a law.
Yeah, but the registry, they only take them for a certain amount of time.
Take them 6 months after
After
endorsement,
approval.
date of endorsement. So you'll be
I
okay.
will second that motion for discussion.
Discussion.
Subject to receipt of a municipal lien certificate showing all taxes paid.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I was hoping Eddie would have stayed for the cemetery. The next letter I'll bring,
Oh.
because of his son, I'll tell you, Michael. What's today,
19.
19th?
Well, I don't know if I don't wanna spread rumors or gossip, but I heard today that the concrete guys walked off the job at the Buddha temple for non-payment yesterday.
Oh,
Jeez, I didn't. I
And they were
talked-
pretty quiet over there today, so crane was sitting there not moving. A couple of pieces of equipment were moving, but that was it. No, I didn't see a lot of little ants running around like normally.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I talked to
Yes.
the,
I heard rumors.
Yes,
I talked to the guy today
yesterday,
from Consigli, he didn't.
well, he's,
And the
I'm sure he's not
and
gonna.
the-
He's not gonna come up and pass it.
He's part of the.
No,
crew.
he called me about a sewer issue. He said that the sewer guys stopped laying the force main because the sewer department told them they didn't like where it was, and they got some, my guys were out there, but I think they misunderstood some of the stuff, so he said, go ahead and keep digging.
So I don't know if the, Buddhists are having a hard time getting money over from Thailand, but this time of year, you don't wanna be stopping pouring concrete, that's for sure.
Those are
Because the last
yours.
time I knew, they were almost done.
Yeah, they only had like one piece to go.
One or two pieces of floors left.
Now's the time to stop, if you're gonna, your own money, now's the time. That last wall is gonna cost a lot of money.
But just in case, we shouldn't start rumors on TV. They may not be right, and you could hurt someone's reputation.
Well, I don't think it's gonna hurt anybody's reputation, and I wouldn't have said it, but it is a Buddha temple, it's not a private individual, so.
It's King of Thailand. You don't want him mad at me.
Take a little while to get there.
Had a good time last time I was there.
All right, anything else?
No?
You have, did you sign any copies for them?
Well, I signed
I have
whatever else
three.
they had. We have a.
So everything you have there is yours?
Mine? Okay.
Now, we normally hold those until we get the receipt.
Do you wanna hold those?
If you can take them, just don't record them.
We're waiting for the municipal buildings.
Yeah, Maureen's gonna notify you when she has the municipal
It
liens.
it was supposed to be dropped off today,
Okay.
from the first floor to the second floor.
Oh, you know why?
She was out sick today.
It's out today.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Oh, that's right, remember
So tomorrow Maureen will
I'll give
check
it to
on
you
it, and
tomorrow.
she'll,
Yeah, because it
she'll
was-
notify
it was
you.
right there.
Yeah, she was out today, that's what happened.
All right, very good.
Alrighty then.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you
it?
very much, gentlemen and ladies. Okay, have a good night.
You too.
See you guys later.
If you have any chunks of land you wanna put a bike trail in or something,
I should expand my, my sewer area. You still have that piece around it, right? I park on their land.
Where? Over the park?
At the pump station. They own a piece around it with no access.
town planner, Aspen Hollows, update.
Richard had the check
Before
for
we
it,
go to
didn't
Aspen
own the
Hollows,
land.
one thing I wanted you to do is to vote to approve the open space plan, because I'm going to need a letter to send with the draft.
Now, just one question I've had on that is, does this improve our standing with certain agencies, like having this? Is this, like, is that one of the biggest reasons, one big reason behind it?
Yes.
That would improve our, grant standing and that type of thing?
And when you look at this, it's almost what the Raynham Library had to go through to be considered for additional grants. Almost sounds like it's,
They don't just give them away anymore, they make you do a
yeah,
lot of,
they had to meet, had the
the
committees.
master plan, the big book that's sitting on the shelf all dusty and that type of thing.
Okay, so, then I make a motion that we approve
The 2012.
the 2012 open space plan as presented to us.
Second.
Any discussion? You gonna start reading that now, Brooke?
No, I was looking if there was a typo that I wanted to point out, but I won't hold this up for.
Uh-oh. Page
That's
321.
why we call it a draft.
Okay, no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Great, thank you. Aspen Hollow, I understand the mailbox, according to Mark Perrin, the mailbox is up.
Okay, I
So I
haven't,
think he said today.
I haven't noticed.
Yeah. He is going to plow the road and the snow plowing. And That's all I know.
Well, he'll have a great opportunity, because we might get 3 to 6 inches Saturday night, so
That's right.
we
So-
will, sure he'll be notified. And he's well aware that the board is a little annoyed, and that we are not going to delay once warm weather in spring comes. Good. I'm sure that the neighbors are happy that the mailboxes are
I hope so, yeah. It was a long
placed.
time, yeah. I also noticed that there aren't any trees. I mentioned that in my email to him. He hasn't placed the trees yet.
Okay, well, let's see how spring comes. General business, sign invoices. Do we have any invoices?
No, none.
None. Wow. Minutes, Brooke?
Make a motion that we waive the reading and approve the minutes of January 5, 2012.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Correspondence, we do have a letter from Cemetery Commission. And it is in regards to cemetery was identified in Carriage Hill Estates off King Street prior to its development. Now, prior to its development, that would mean if it was identified, and I do remember.
You know what happened there? That's what I wanted to tell you when I was wishing Eddie would stay. Back when it was that Mulligan and Charlie, the guy they found the trunk of the car, whatever his name was, Charlie Cunningham, something like that. Cummings. What appeared, because I walk out there and there was Bill Rose across the street and there was a stone wall that went around, and that was the original King Estate. If you look on the town map, there was a house out there and it was a family plot. Raynham Cemetery, the neighbor brought that up, and the cemetery commission said, well, as far as we know, there's no cemetery out there. So Eddie Brennan's kids and the neighborhood kids ride their bicycles out there. So little Michael, who's Dayton Dan's daughter, thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you.
Michael said, yeah, he yelled at these guys. They took away all the headstones in a dump truck. And he said, it's a cemetery. So it's little Michael. He had to be 14, 15 years old at the time. And he was young. But, and that's how it came to light. And sure enough, they went out and checked it out, and it was a cemetery. And so
Now, I do remember,
it was right off that right of way, right through the middle. That was the original driveway to the King Estate.
Well, I
Back in the
remember Don Gordon
1600s.
coming in front of us about a subdivision cemetery. When I read this earlier, I wasn't sure if this was, if I'm remembering correctly, and if it is, why isn't it viewed on the plan?
It is on the plan.
Oh, it is on the plan, but there's no easement on the plan for access?
But the easement is between the property between two homes, just like it is on the front portion. It's right at the property line. And it's not taken care of, it's all overgrown. So unless you go through someone's yard, you can't get to it because the easement's just not accessible.
But whose responsibility is to take care of the easement?
I don't know. I don't think it was ever specified in your conditions, so I don't know.
But it's an easement to the town of Raynham, so the town of Raynham has the ability to go in there. I know, like, I have sewer easements everywhere. The landowners don't take care
Well,
of
there
them,
was
we
a
mow.
question that Roger brought up a while ago, because he was concerned that it was going to be a town's responsibility to clean it, and he was assured that it was not. So I think we need to determine who's
Well, I think it's the
responsible.
cemetery commission.
Nothing to do with the highway department.
All right, well, wait, let's back up here. Because this, with what Mr. Gordon is asking or stating is that this, the plan does not show a right-of-way. Okay, so it does show the right-of-way.
Has it been conveyed?
We request prior to the town signing off on the project, a legal right-of-way to the cemetery be provided. Recommend the access be from Durham Drive behind Lot 10. Is that where it is? Okay. And it be cleared out, clearly marked, and a cemetery be returned to its clean state it was in prior to construction. So reading this, it sounds like it was it messed up or
I have
damaged?
not seen it.
Yeah.
He described it to me that it was hard to find. They had a hard time finding it.
They didn't even know it existed,
Yeah.
because these guys dismantled it.
So,
Are the stones gone?
Stones are gone. No, they dismantled the thing because they didn't know, these guys, they would have bulldozed the thing. But they dismantled it, and it was actually little Michael and Bill Rose across the street that said it was there. Cemetery wasn't aware of it at the time and didn't maintain it at the time.
so accessing this from Durham Drive, are there any houses there? So the houses are built, and so this portion, the bank has nothing to do with this portion?
Oof. So
So
You
now,
accepted the Durham Drive.
have the lots been conveyed? You'd have to pull out
They
the
have.
deed, see if they've been conveyed subject to the easement, and see if the easement was ever conveyed to the town of Raynham. And you're not gonna get any, I mean, if
Well-
Norwood Bank reserved the easement, I'm sure they'd be fine with it. Is there any other way to access it?
No. No. not that
Except
I
through
can
those
see,
two
'cause
lots.
It backs up to the other part of the
Right.
subdivision, so.
is, all right, well, Brooke, your,
Matt Dacey
your,
and Norwood Bank would
legal
probably provide
advisor
some
and
sort of-
plan document
I
is
believe
there?
there is a state law that says that there's automatic access to it.
Cemetery.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
heard that before.
But what I would like to do, just to take it one step further, should we review the plan and notify those, or check at the registry to make sure, like Chris says, that it is recorded? And then if it is, just to notify those two people that the easement goes through, just so they are aware that this is, so if somebody goes there, cemetery people go there, they're all volunteers probably, and they start cleaning up the easement to access a cemetery that they might want to restore, that they have the right to do that, and they're not calling the building department or highway department or police. You
If,
know, so,
If you want, Marilyn, I'm not working tomorrow, I'm gonna be able to go to the doctor's for a few hours, but I'll be around. If you could give me like a reminder call in the morning,
I won't
and
be here tomorrow, but-
you won't? Yeah, give me a reminder call and I'll pull it up online and research the thing. It'd take 10 minutes to find out if the
and then that way there we
easements were
know,
Know
granted.
whether or not it's.
and if you, when you do, you can get the owners of the two pieces of property, right?
Yeah.
Won't they, they'll be recorded.
Is Durham Drive the little cul-de-sac?
Yeah, which is gonna be connected to the back portion of the,
Because if there's a way to get into it, say if it doesn't get the easement, you'd have to go through, could do a taking.
Something else, but
Or you
yeah.
could, if
it's
the
shown as
people,
an easement on the plan, so I would imagine whatever they purchased, it shows an
Right.
easement to people's
People, the
lots.
people
but
that
it
bought
may
it
not
should.
have ever been conveyed, it may not, when it's shown on the plan, doesn't necessarily mean it's
Oh,
ownership.
we'll take the
But-
next step once we find
Yeah.
out, once you get the information, and then
Yeah.
we can notify them, just so they know, and then we can notify Mr. Gordon that, of what we did, and so he'll, you know, at least the cemetery board will feel comfortable if they want to go out there and
I mean, it's
clean it.
probably their responsibility, though, would be to clean it up.
Well, I think it, yeah, I would too. So we'll take that step once we find out the legal ownership of it. And February 2nd, the only thing we have on at this time is Awas Farms, public hearing at 6:20.
I've done a little research at the registry, I haven't gotten too far, but I have the plan from 1976, and it does show construction easements. I haven't gotten very far time-wise, but I haven't found deeds that actually grant an easement or reserve an easement.
Yeah, they do.
Do
I've
they?
researched it, yeah, I had actually had Glenn Reed do it for me.
Okay.
Help me out, he's pretty thorough. I don't know if
Okay.
you've seen Glenn in there once or twice. It's almost too thorough, but he feels they reserved him out. And they further, it had the note on the plan, but it wasn't, it was reserved out, I think, on the Yugo deed. I think a Yugo deed. Yugo owned it, and then he sold them to a developer who reserved it out. But it seemed like, you know, in his opinion, yeah, they had construction easements. He said the question is, like on Mass Highway plans and a lot of these things, they have a construction easement, but they don't necessarily have a slope easement. So they specifically take a slope easement so they can modify the grade. He says, otherwise you can't, you know, you'd need a legal, he goes, you know, I'm giving it to you from my years' experience as a professional land surveyor, but he said you'd probably want it from an attorney, but Because once these easements go back to the people, they could just come down and cut the slope right down to the ground. There's not a thing you could do about it.
It says temporary in there,
Yeah.
doesn't it say temporary easement?
So
That's
that's,
Once it's accepted, they terminate.
they own it, and they could cut it down, and there goes your slope. But he said typically on the Mass Highway plans, which I've seen a lot of them when you've done work near Mass Highway, and any road construction they're doing, South Main Street, any of these, they'll take a slope easement. And when they don't take a slope easement in situations like South Main Street, they have to build walls. And same in Bridgewater, when they did 104, they didn't take slope easements. Like Dave Canopa's brother's house there by the bank, they built a wall.
So,
And that's,
with that,
you know, that's
I'll
it.
go do some more research, or if he has some book and page references, I'll take them, I'll talk to them.
Okay.
and then,
I could forward you Glenn's email with
because
everything.
that's,
Yeah.
going to really impact our February 2nd meeting, that information, so.
Is
Now-
there anything about perk tests being done by our engineers with your?
We did, yes, and Maureen had presented
That was
this.
a prior condition, right? Oh,
This
that's the
was-
Carriage Hill.
That's Carriage Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. No,
That's
that
what
was,
you look at, Chris.
yeah, that was the other one.
Yeah, no, I looked at it.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen, I'm thinking of that one.
Okay, so Dennis.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know Chris wanted to be out there with them.
Yeah, that hasn't, I think our last meeting ended abruptly, so I don't think we got that far.
That was actually, it's written in the original,
Yeah, the denial, the certificate.
yeah, it was in,
Or the-
it wasn't, it was just a condition. It
A
was written in
condition,
as a
right.
condition, and we could just continue to have that condition.
Right.
And it just said prior to construction, it didn't stop the endorsement. I mean,
It would only delay the project if, upon reviewing the soil
Yeah.
tests, that it wasn't the same as what was stated on the plan, then they would have to redo, and if they, depending on how far along they want to take that, if it was me, I'd do it as soon as possible, so,
Right.
you know, it's confirmed, but.
I mean, if you're gonna propose infiltration and all this stuff, and say your drainage has, you know, a certain amount of runoff based on soils, they're going solely by the soil map, and by my experience out there, I absolutely do not agree that they're Cranston's, the piece that you had in there, 62 acres, the piece that abuts it, that was both the same piece, the A-Ways and the Cranston piece. We were out there for several days trying to perk that, and we ended up getting one spot in 62 acres, and the A-Ways, I was out on that thing years ago too. There's some areas that were okay, way towards Prospect Hill Street, but the rest of it behind the houses wasn't.
So going back to was for
They had all failed septics.
the deed information, I know when they were in front of us, the attorney gave us what he felt was proof and information. But I don't believe he presented any deeds or anything, he just showed us, oh, he did?
No, we didn't present it.
Right. So, I guess, you know, if you, you know, whatever information between what Chris has and what you find,
I think his deed, you know, his deed research was comparable to his research when he gave us the opinion that time to act was that night. So,
yeah, well, okay, so
I'll forward you that stuff.
we'll wait to see on February 2nd, I guess. Anything else, Maureen?
No, I don't have anything.
Maryland, again? Yeah, that's a lot of work getting to that. Now it's gonna be a lot of work trying to get grants. But I heard you were the grant writer and you're special. Okay, very good. Meeting adjourned.